Okay, quick review. That glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm and splits glucose into 2 pyruvic acids, which go to the Krebs cycle. It also produces babysitters called NADH, that shouldn't be there. It produces water. It costs 2 ATP, and it gives you 4 ATP. The Krebs cycle takes that pyruvic acid and produces 2 more ATP, produces CO2, and sends more babysitters to the electron transport chain. The babysitters drop their electrons off there, which jump through the chain, moving protons into the intermembrane space, allowing them to leave through the ATP synthase. The electrons get picked up by oxygen. 32 ATP get produced by the ATP synthase, and you get water as a byproduct. NAD plus and FAD are sent back to glycolysis in the Krebs, unless there's no oxygen. Right? If there's no oxygen, then we do this thing called fermentation, where either you change pyruvic acid into alcohol and CO2, and strip the electrons off of NADH to make NAD plus to keep glycolysis going, to keep making ATP with it. Note that fermentation doesn't make any ATP itself. Or if you're you do lactic acid fermentation, where you take the same reactants, which are the products from glycolysis, and you make lactic acid and NAD plus. Either way, what you're doing is recycling NAD plus so that glycolysis can keep going. Questions about that?
It says O2 dead. So what does that mean, O2 dead? Does it have to produce more O2?
It has to get more O2 to the cells because the cells have a buildup, your muscle cells have a buildup of lactic acid, right? So basically, you're going to have to breathe a little harder to deliver a little bit more oxygen to your muscle cells because the oxygen is what's picking up the lactic acid and carrying it to your liver to be changed back. That's why the post-sprint position is this, right? Is you're basically repaying your oxygen back.
What would happen if you breathe afterwards? Or like didn't give a lot of oxygen to your blood?
Typically, you would pass out. Passing out is kind of your body's little fail-safe mechanism to like, this guy's not breathing. Why isn't he breathing? We should make him breathe. And you pass out, and then you lose control of that, and you automatically breathe. What else? So to the diagram, yeah, Amanda.
You like generally like get after a right? How does like your body go?
We'll talk about that in a minute, promise. So, diagram-wise, we're basically shutting down access to oxygen, which shuts down electron transport, which shuts down Krebs. Takes the mitochondria pretty much out of the equation. So now glycolysis is going to have to send its pyruvic acid and NADH somewhere else. That somewhere else is fermentation. NADH, pyruvic acid go to fermentation. NAD plus is recycled so glycolysis can keep making ATP, and lactic acid or alcohol and CO2 get produced as the byproduct. That's fine if it's alcohol and CO2. That's fine if you're a one-celled critter, because you're basically floating in a bunch of soup, right? You're floating in liquid. You can just push off that alcohol and CO2 into the liquid, and it doesn't have to be in your cell anymore. Multicellular organism like you has to come up with a different thing, right? You can't have alcohol and CO2 floating around in your bloodstream. This, by the way, is why fermented alcoholic beverages don't go above a certain percentage of alcohol, because it'll kill the yeast. To get really high alcohol stuff, they have to basically cook it down, called distilling it, to make like liquor and stuff. Like beer generally doesn't go above about 8%, and wine doesn't go above about 15%, because that's the level that the yeast basically poison themselves with their own alcohol and CO2. Okay, let's talk about. Oh, that's a better one, isn't it? Maybe the bad one. Anyway, exercise. Okay, so I want you to picture yourself, whether you do so regularly or not, you're about to go for a 2-mile run. And you've just started, and you've gone maybe about a half a block. How do you feel? Fantastic, don't you? I don't care if you're the most out of shape person in the world. That first half a block, man, I feel great. I'm like, I can do this all day. What's happening is you're basically burning through all the stored ATP in your muscle cells. Not costing you anything. So you don't feel anything. I could be in the Olympics. Give it about 90 seconds more, and during that 90 seconds, you're still feeling pretty good. You're like, well, okay, this burns a little, but I'm awesome. I'm strong. That's your lactic acid fermentation kicking in. 1.5 to 3 minutes, maybe tops, but probably more like 1.5 minutes. You've run your muscle cells out of oxygen, and they have quickly switched to lactic acid fermentation. They are going through glucose like there's no tomorrow, because they're only getting 2 ATP, well, really 4 ATP out of each glucose molecule. And building up lactic acid like crazy. That's your anaerobic phase. Of the exercise. And if you are going especially vigorously, if you're going all out, that's about all you get. Because at that point, at the end of that 90 seconds to 2 minutes, you've built up quite a bit of oxygen debt. Your body's basically going to stop you. That buildup hurts. It hurts right now, and it can hurt later if you don't get all the lactic acid out there. That's why your coaches have you bicycle your legs. So to the question of training, those who train anaerobically, sprints, powerlifting, any of those track events where you do something as hard as you can briefly, right? Long jump, pole vault, hammer throw, whatever. All anaerobic stuff. And training anaerobically, first of all, singles out one type of muscle fiber. They are called fast twitch muscles as opposed to slow twitch muscles. And by training anaerobically, what you give those muscle cells is more fibers, which happen to be microfilament type fibers, more stored ATP and more stored glucose. All of those things generally serve to increase the size of the muscle fibers a little bit, which is why it's anaerobically trained muscles that tend to bulk you up because they get bigger. Notice we didn't mention blood flow or red blood cells in there at all, because all of that anaerobic stuff happens before the circulatory system has a chance to catch up. Okay? So that's not a factor. It's all about what you've got right there, right now. Aerobic exercise, which you can do if you pace yourself. If you don't go all out in that first couple minutes, you can go longer. Because what's happening is your body figures it out and sends signals. And the signals say, hey, breathe faster. Which theoretically will get more oxygen dissolved into your bloodstream. But only if your blood pumps faster, so your body also sends the signal, hey, heart, beat faster. So the blood moves faster. So the increased breathing rate can actually deliver more oxygen into the bloodstream. Both those things have to happen, and they do. You notice that's, 2 minutes into my run when I start really feeling like crap, like, uh-oh. That's a brief phase. I can kind of work through that. And then at a certain point, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm breathing a little heavier, but it doesn't hurt anymore. I'm okay. Because Oxidative respiration, Krebs and electron transport, it's slower. It doesn't make ATP as fast as glycolysis. Glycolysis is lightning fast. Krebs and electron transport slower, but way more efficient. You're making way better use of your glucose molecules. You're getting 36 ATPs out of them instead of 2. So your oxygen supply catches up with that demand from that increased breathing and heartbeat. And depending on how well you've trained, you keep going for quite a while. People run ridiculous lengths. I mean, marathon is one thing. That's beyond my comprehension itself. But I mean, there's people that run 100-mile races these days. Ultra marathons or whatever they call them. Man, we have a science teacher whose husband does that. I don't understand it. It's amazing. I mean, so what they're doing is training like crazy. And what aerobic training does for your muscles is, first of all, you get more red blood cells. You make more red blood cells, which means more oxygen carriers in your blood. You actually can grow more blood vessels. And you get more mitochondria in those muscle cells. Not only getting more oxygen, but more little alien invaders in your cells to use that oxygen to do electron transport and all that. By the way, the muscles specific to aerobic respiration are called slow twitch muscle fibers. The slow twitch is for aerobic, fast twitch is for anaerobic. If you ever want to see the difference, there's one very clear way to see the difference, to see fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers for real, and that is to cut up a chicken. It's the difference between white meat and dark meat. Breast is white meat. That's fast twitch muscle fiber. Why? What does a chicken use its breast muscles for?
Flex.
No. Breathing? No.
Oh,
Yeah, to flap its wings. And why does a chicken flap its wings? It can't fly. It's when you scare a chicken, they'll like, and they'll go like that. A big hop, basically. It's fight or flight. Fast twitch. Yeah, that's when you're really trying to get away from something, use fast twitch muscle fibers. And so that the breast muscle is almost all fast twitch, whereas the dark meat ones have sort of a mix between the two.
What's the example of dark meat?
Thigh.
Thigh.
Yeah, thigh leg. That they use all day, to walk around. Yeah. So yeah, that's a quick thing about exercise. Any questions there? Not that that's going to be like tested super heavily or anything. I just thought I'd be interested, to connect this to real world stuff. Okay, so you have sample essays. I'll post the notes, PowerPoint, Google Slides thing online for you. Sample essays are due Monday. Your test is Tuesday. Any questions about that?